Yeah, Steve Hegarty, Public Information Officer for the Tampa Police.
Can you describe what happened today?
Well, what happened today is we're here in Gaslight Park, and we had a group that came out, set up some tables to distribute food. We had one of our lieutenants come out and explain to them, as we have in the past, that there's an ordinance that prohibits that, and that there's lots of other options if they wanted to do that. So we had a conversation, and there were some folks out here that were carrying signs and had some things to say about it, and that's fine. So we stood out here and we chatted with a lot of people.
There was a point where it seemed the police were very serious about getting to the people who had been trespassed last week and getting to them, but they couldn't get to them because some people had locked arms, but the police decided to, at that point, back off. Am I describing that correctly?
Well, we don't have any problem with the people who were out here, expressing their views. They were carrying signs and they were chanting and doing things like that. We don't have any problem with that. It was the folks who were, distributing the food after we explained that there's an ordinance that says you can't do that. So when they're still, well, I guess they're not. I guess they just packed up just so.
I'm trying to get to the point where there was an officer, and I'll have to get his name from you later, who was telling people who had their arms linked that I'm giving you a lawful order and you need to move so that I can get to the people that I need to, and they refused. And I thought, well, at that point, a couple of things could have happened. And what ended up happening is that the police just decided to back away from that situation. What was that decision about?
Yeah, we're trying to be patient. We don't have to, create a scene out here. We want everybody to be safe. That's why we're here. So they were, as you said, they were locking arms and they were getting in the way. That's not a big deal. We don't need to create a big scene out here. So we're just being patient. We're, as I said, we were chatting with people to let them know what the law was and, having some conversation with them.
And when I talked to you last week, you had mentioned, lost my train of thought, that you hadn't seen them in this park before. And so what I did is I went back and I looked in some places like maybe their Facebook events page, and it looked like fairly regularly, like 10 times or 5 times or whatever in the past few months, they had events here during the day to feed people. And the question that's been on a lot of people's minds is what was the incident that made it happen? Why did the arrest start happening last Tuesday? I know there was an arrest, but...
Yeah, the arrest happened on Saturday.
What I mean is the first incident was last Tuesday, then
right.
Saturday.
Well, we've been out here before to chat with them and say, there's an ordinance, and actually they've been very, very cool about it in the past. On Tuesday, last Tuesday, things seemed to change a little bit. And they made it very clear that, okay, we know what the ordinance is, but we're going to be back on Saturday. We are not going to comply with the ordinance, and we're going to set up a table. We explained, what the rules are, and that we prefer that they not do that. And there were a lot of other options if you just want to feed the homeless. They made it very clear that they were going to violate the ordinance. When that happens, we feel that we need to come out and let them know what the ordinance is, so we did that on Saturday. It reached a different level on Saturday in terms of how they, reacted to our talking with them and explaining the ordinance. And as you saw, it did result in arrests. Nobody went to jail or anything like that. They got a misdemeanor for trespassing because we asked them to leave. And so that's what happened on Saturday. What's different? I don't think they usually come out with signs and do chants and all that sort of thing. So I think it sort of took a different tone sometime last week.
And that tone on Tuesday, it started out normal where your police would occasionally come to these and remind them that they can't feed, and then that would be the end of it, whereas last Tuesday it escalated a little bit?
I don't know that it escalated, but they made it very clear that they were going to be coming back on Saturday and that they were not going to get a permit or anything like that. So we made it very clear that, well, if you do that, there might be a problem. So we came out on Saturday and explained you got plenty of other options. There are other people who feed the homeless downtown. There's a right way to do it, there's a wrong way to do it. And, let's work something out. They refused. I know that our lieutenant walked up to them to try to shake someone's hand and they refused. It was very clear that there was a little bit of a change in tone. And so it resulted in what you saw.
Those were my only questions. I just need to get identification for 2 of the officers who were here. One is the woman who did a lot of the talking.
Yeah, that's Lieutenant Kim Torres.
Torrez.
Torres.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then a gentleman who kind of was the one that was, when the protesters were locked arms, and he came up to them and he was saying, "Look, I'm trying to get to the people behind you."
I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't see him right now. Do you know how
Lieutenant Torres was the one who was talking.
Do you know how I could find out the name of the other person, the other man?
Tell me who. I don't know.
Yeah, I looked on. He had, like you, he had no identification on the outside